we have Sandeep, Goenka, who's going to give a quick run through to what Bitcoin is and its evolution.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandeep Goenka. I'm a co-founder of Zeppates, and it's an Indian Bitcoin company. And basically, we make it's a Bitcoin wallet targeted at non-geeks. So typically, Bitcoin wallets are a little complicated to use, and there's a bit of a learning curve. So that's the product. But this session is more about Bitcoins. So I've been given the unenvious task of introducing Bitcoins in about 15 minutes. The first time I got was an hour, and that was a challenge. And then half an hour, and today it's 15 minutes. I'm going to try my best. This part of the audience are Bitcoin experts, so they're going to yawn at me. So I'm just going to look at you guys over here. But just wanted to understand how many of you guys really know Bitcoin, so I can kind of just pace my presentation accordingly. I mean, really know.
Start at zero.
Okay, all right, start at zero. So, all right. So I mean, we guys are futurists. I mean, in this audience, and we know that some technologies. I mean, Uber changes the way we, maybe travel from one place to the other. But some technologies like the internet, the smartphone, they change the very fabric of society. So today's event is dedicated to one such technology platform. Which will change society the way it operates. It's about Bitcoins, and Bitcoins is the future of trust, and money is nothing else but an application of trust. So just as in 92, 94, before internet went, crossed the critical mass, the first applications about the internet that people would talk about was websites and emails. So I'm just gonna limit my talk to money, but money is just the first application of Bitcoins. Just wanted to kind of just plug that in. So just a very quick history of money, because since we are talking about the future of money, it's we take the current money system for granted. So just a very quick short history on money. So money evolved about 11,000 years back. It's nothing else but a technology solution by society to solve the problem of barter, which is nothing else but a way to keep debts. All right. So the first thing that people started using money was day-to-day things which they would find, but was precious. Beads and cattle and so on and so forth. And then about 5,000 years after that, that is around 4,000 BC, precious metals were discovered, and society found that precious metals were better than the previous form of money. And so gold really emerged as a global currency. And then about 1,000 years back, paper money evolved, and which was nothing else but gold receipts. So people started depositing gold with goldsmiths, which eventually turned out to become banks. And the goldsmiths started giving receipts, as a proof of your gold deposit. And then over a period of time, what people started doing was, rather than go back to the goldsmith, exchange the receipt for gold, and then transact in gold, they just started transacting in these paper receipts, and that's how paper money was born. Fast forward to what we currently use as money is something called fiat money. So the current thing that we use as money, which we take it for granted, is less than 100 years old. The system of money is less than 100 years old. It kind of started in 1918, and what happened was that after 1918, country after country started exiting from the gold standard. So before 1918, the paper money, each dollar bill, you could actually exchange with the bank which issued the dollar bill for a specific value, for a specific amount of gold. But after 1918, there was no such linkage. So the current money is what experts call as fiat money, and if you look up the word fiat in dictionary, it means something which has no intrinsic value. It just has value because some central authority says so, and we as a society believe in it. There's no problem in that. Just wanted to kind of get the point that the current money system is less than 100 years old. Before that, for 5,000 years, we were using gold as money. All right. So in 2009, an anonymous person by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto invented what is widely claimed to be as big as an invention as the internet itself. He invented Bitcoins. Now we Bitcoiners believe that Bitcoin is the best thing that can be used as money in the history of money. And I want to highlight some key aspects why we believe that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, historically, if you think about, money has been extremely physical in nature. I mean, with gold and even with cash, when we would do a transaction, money would physically move from me to you. And because money itself would move, we would not need a trusted third party somewhere, some person in the middle to kind of say that, yes, this transaction happened, because you would have the money, right? But over the last 30 years, increasingly we use electronic money. And the problem with electronic money is, since money itself does not move from me to you when we do a transaction, we need a trusted third party in the middle, a PayPal or a clearing house or a bank, to say that yes, this transaction happened, and who maintains the ledger of all the transactions that happened. All right. Now the problem with electronic money is that the good thing is that it's instant, unlike physical money. But the problem is that these trusted third parties have now become extremely powerful. So for example, banks can refuse to open bank accounts for economically underprivileged sections of the society. They can actually refuse transactions on the network. So now, with electronic money, for the first time in the history of money, even if it's your money, if you think about, the only way you can spend it is as deemed suitable by these trusted third parties. Otherwise, you cannot spend it. I mean, because everybody uses electronic money now. Now, Bitcoin is the first invention which has the benefits of both physical money and electronic money. So just like electronic money, it can be transferred instantly from anywhere to anywhere in the world, which is the benefit of electronic money. But just like physical money, for a Bitcoin transaction to happen, you do not need a trusted third party. And of course, we will talk about the technology later, but that's just because of the brilliant technology at the back end. And that's the reason it's a fantastic invention. The second thing is that, I mean, increasingly we are global citizens, we use the internet, we use now a global data and information network, but our currencies are extremely national, which means that just because of this, it makes it easy for transacting with people within the same country, but it's extremely difficult to transact with people from outside the country. And so with a global information and data network, there is a need for a global currency, for a global world. Now, Bitcoin's backend technology again works something just like the internet, which means that no country, company, or organization owns it, which means nobody can shut it down, which also means that it's truly global. The third really critical thing that I want to talk about is, again, for the first time in the history of money, our fiat money is extremely susceptible to inflation and hyperinflation. We actually think that inflation is a feature of money, but that's not true. When gold was money, gold was never inflationary. But our fiat money is inflationary, and we take it for granted because we are born in the system. Now that's because fiat money is virtually unlimited in supply. Governments create it out of thin air, and they're also free to create. Which means the only way that it's kept precious, and being precious and being rare is an important property of money, right? So the only way fiat money is kept precious is by the monetary policy of the country, which is decided by the central bank. Now, sometimes for good reasons, like to kickstart an economy from depression or to fund a war. I'm not really sure whether funding a war is a good reason, but sometimes for good reason, but definitely sometimes for bad reasons. For example, in countries like Argentina, or before elections in a country like ours, the government ends up creating a lot of excess money for populist measures. And when that happens, this excess money comes in the system, and the purchasing power of the money that we already have loses value for no fault of ours, and that's called inflation. Now, when that happens when that happens on a massive scale over a very short period of time, it's called hyperinflation. Now, we don't know this, but in the last 100 years, with this fiat money, which is this new money system that we use, there have been more than 60 cases of hyperinflation in the last 100 years. There have been cases in Zimbabwe where money was losing value every 25 hours by 100%. Most recently, in December 2014, the Russian ruble, I mean, this is the Russian economy, it's not some small country on the fringe, lost 40% of its value within a month and a half. And then the Asian tiger nations lost a lot of value in 1997. So there have been a lot of cases, and if it can happen to these countries, it can happen to the US, it can happen to India. Just because it's not happened does not mean it cannot happen. Now, Bitcoin was designed to mimic a precious metal. Bitcoin was designed to mimic gold, which means the inventor kept the supply of Bitcoins rare and fixed, all right? So there will only be 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be created by the network, and 14 million Bitcoins have already been generated. So just 7 million Bitcoins will be there, and just because it's precious and it's rare, that people would want to own it, all right? Because it's precious and rare, the value of Bitcoins is expected to go up over a period of time, at least in the long term. And we've seen that happen in the past. And Bitcoins was less than a couple of cents a couple of years ago, and now it's more than $200-300. Of course, there's a lot of volatility in the short term, but in the long term, the value is supposed to go up because the supply is limited, and if the demand grows, the value is going to grow up, which means that Bitcoin is also susceptible, is resistant to inflation and hyperinflation, just like money before fiat money. So this was an extremely quick introduction of Bitcoins, really about the advantages of Bitcoins. Now, in India, Bitcoin awareness is extremely low compared to other countries. So the next part of the presentation is just to kind of show the amount of awareness and adoption that Bitcoins, that's already happened with Bitcoins in other countries, all right? So Bitcoin trading volume at the end of 2014 touched $23 billion, an increase of more than 50% over the year before. Vikram Pandit, the ex-CEO of the world's largest bank, has invested in a Bitcoin company. So this is not some executive in a bank. This is the CEO of the world's largest bank. PayPal founders, again a payment network, have invested, are very strong believers in Bitcoin, have invested in Bitcoin company. So you can kind of imagine what the future of banking will look like, what the future of payment networks will look like. In fact, Bitcoin investment this year is expected to cross $1 billion just from $2 million about 4 years back. So it's exponentially increasing. Billion-dollar companies have already started accepting Bitcoin. So Microsoft accepts Bitcoins on its US website for Xbox points. Dell US accepts Bitcoins. So you can buy laptops and computers on Dell US website. Expedia, Overstock. Just recently, Rakuten, which is Japan's Flipkart, Japan's Amazon, started accepting Bitcoin. So this is not something new. We have big companies which have started accepting Bitcoins. Small merchants, the slide is a little old, about 100,000 merchants worldwide now accept Bitcoins. Bitcoin accounts, which are actually Bitcoin wallets, from about zero, just about 2 years back, have touched about 8 million wallets now. And again, I mean, this is more for Indian audience. Contrary to popular perception, Bitcoin is legal in most countries, barring a few fringe countries, and in some countries its status is not clear, like in India, but in most Western and progressive countries, Bitcoin has been proactively by the governments given legal status. So that's just again a very short introduction on the adoption of Bitcoins. The next part of the presentation is something really interesting. It's about the Bitcoin price. And when people who are new to Bitcoins, look at the price, maybe people who've kind of got involved with Bitcoins post 2014, they look at this price graph. So that's the Bitcoin price graph right from the beginning till recently. They look at this graph and they say, oh, Bitcoin maybe must have caught the fancy of a few people, and you can see the peak, and now it's dying. I mean, it's people are running away from it. I mean, it's pretty clear from the graph, right? So what I've done is I've kind of divided this graph into what I call as previous boom cycles, all right? So there are these 4 boom cycles that have happened in Bitcoin, and let's kind of zoom into each boom cycle to see what happened in that period, okay? So let's zoom into the boom cycle 1, which is in 2010, and you can see that it's a flat line, but when we zoom in 2010, the Bitcoin graph looked something like this, which is kind of similar to the graph that we now see, right? I mean, it kind of had a boom and then it dipped. So in 2010, Bitcoin price from negligible went to 39 cents and then crashed to 19 cents. And at that point of time, again, people who were new to Bitcoins said that, oh my God, I mean, Bitcoin is dying, right? And then what happened after that is from 19 cents, this is just in the second year of Bitcoin's existence, Bitcoin crossed dollar parity. This is a brand new baby of a currency, crossed dollar parity in 2011, touching $29 and again crashed to $2. Again, giving Bitcoin skeptics a chance to say that Bitcoin is dead. From $2 in the next boom cycle, which kind of lasted for about a year and a half, Bitcoin went to touch $230 and then again crashed to $67. The point I'm trying to make is that these kind of ups and downs have happened in the past, but at each point, if you see, the up is much higher than the previous high, and the low is also much higher than the previous high. So I just kind of want to make a point that overall, this is not the first time that's happened. It's a speculative thing in the short term, but in the long term, the value has kept going up. And then we come, of course, to the current phase that we are in, which it touched a whopping $1,150 before crashing to about $180. And right now the price is kind of between $230 to $250. And we are really crossing our fingers for the next boom cycle. Very important for the Bitcoin community, I think. So that's a little quick introduction on Bitcoins. We are trying to get more people hop onto the Bitcoin jet. We believe it's a jet. Thanks a lot.